Hello, welcome back to Flower Patch. Today I am tying in my Colette climbing rose. This is a beautiful rose that puts on tons and tons of blooms in the spring, early summer, and then it sporadically goes ahead and reblooms through the summer. Just beautiful. I didn't obviously get it tied in before our first snow, and today has been a gorgeous day, and I wanted to get it tied in. It's 60 degrees out here, but we're supposed to get snow by the end of the week, so we're going to be getting back to winter and what is typical winter weather here. But getting this tied in will help it not to break down in the heavy snows and be even more beautiful next spring and summer, so that it can bloom instead of breaking off. More blooms. Ouch. Boy, this is a prickly rose, that's for sure. So, enough about the rose. I wanted to talk to you today about amendments, soil amendments, and why I don't put them in any planting holes as I am planting, whether it's roses, bare root roses, potted roses, other shrubs, other plants like annuals I'm putting out, none of it. And I'll tell you what I do. I was going to go in the greenhouse to chat, and I decided it is just too pretty out here. Let me straighten you up here. Better? Yeah. So, anyways, this is sinking in the ground. We were going to talk about, oh, where'd my paper go? 1 second, let me go get my paper. Now, I was going to wait until my bare root roses came in, and I still will take you along on planting them, but they're not here yet. And I did buy, can you see this down here? A little bit. This is fairy rose. I bought this today at my local Ace Hardware. I have seen a sign on the window or the door that went out to the garden center, which there's nothing out there of much right now because of the season. And it said 40% off all plants. I thought, I'll go see what they have. I know they had some perennials and stuff that would come back, and I know what to look for. So when I went out there, I saw this rose, 40% off. And so it ended up being $10 total. It's the fairy. I have wanted this rose for a while now. I like roses that are tough as nails, will continuously bloom through the summer. And this is a shorter growing, so it's like 2 feet supposedly. It'll probably get 3 feet in my garden because some of the things that stay shorter will grow taller because they're reaching for the sun, because we have a struggle getting a lot of direct sun in my garden because of the tall trees. So I picked it up and I'm going to plant it. But I wanted to share with you, before I planted it, how I make a gopher cage, a DIY gopher cage for my roses when I plant them. But let's get back to the soil amendments and why I don't personally amend the soil in a planting hole as I'm planting. Now here is the research paper that I said I would refer to when I came and I talked to you about this. So it says the myth of soil amendments, and I might even name my blog post that. I think I do. I do have a blog post. I'll link it in the description box below. But this is from a horticulturist and associate professor of Washington State University. It says, of all the fictions that abound in popular horticulture, none is as deceptive as this one. It stems from the old adage to dig a $5 hole for a 50-cent plant. I have heard that so many times. So it says, adding organic matter to a planting hole appears to be a promising step towards achieving that $5 hole. It seems logical and all of that. So it goes on with more, but it says that what happens when the roots encounter the interface between the planting hole and the native soil, the roots react in much the same way as they do in containers. Now, we've learned recently that you do not put stones, etc., gravel in the bottom of containers or pots you're planting in, because it rather than aiding drainage, it actually holds water, and the difference in the two materials between the soil and the gravel creates a problem. So it says the roots do not, oh, wait a minute, let me go back. The roots react much the same way as they do in containers. They circle the edge of the interface around the edge of the pot, and grow back into that more hospitable environment of the planting hole where you have amended it. So it wants to stay there, the roots, instead of reaching out into the native soil. The sun's coming right through that tree now. So it says the roots do not establish in the native soil, eventually resulting in reduced growth rates and hazard status as crown growth exceeds root ball diameter. Meaning the top will grow, the bottom does not reach out, and therefore you've got a disparity in what the plant needs. It needs that root growth to support the top growth. So it says soil water movement is problematic as well. Amended backfill has markedly different characteristics than surrounding native soil. It's more porous and water will wick away to the finer textured native soil. In the summer, moisture within the planting hole will be depleted by the plant but not replaced by water. So that is held more tightly in the native soil next to it. This results in water stress to the plant unless the planting hole is kept irrigated, a costly and often unrealistic practice. During wet seasons, water will move quickly through the amended soil, only to be held back by the more slowly draining native soil. This results in the bathtub effect, wherein water accumulates in the planting hole, floods the roots, and eventually kills the plant. It can. So you see how you're working against what you're really trying to achieve when you amend the soil? You're wanting to help the plant to get established. You want to help the roots get going, but you're doing the opposite. And with this explanation, you can see why that is. So, says no scientific studies to date show any measurable benefit of soil amendment except in containerized plant production. So if you're amending soil to put in containers, that's a different story because it's all the same soil. So plants grown in native soil consistently showed better root establishment and more vigorous growth. And isn't that what we want? So basically, there's more here. It calls the adding of amendments an outdated practice. And we all are trying to get better plant growth. So if you have, in the past, planted things and added either starter fertilizer or other amendments, even compost, manures, you're doing the opposite of what you're really trying to achieve. Therefore, stop. So just try it. I had one gal comment on my one video, and she said that she did 2 different plants, and one she added a starter fertilizer, and the other one she didn't, and she was surprised that the one she didn't add it to the hole, that it did much better. So that was proof in her eyes of what I'm saying. So that is why I do not amend the soil at all when I'm digging and planting any kind of plant. What I do is I amend all the soil. I put compost on top. I mulch. Or my manures. I've told you about my chicken litter, how I spread it out in the fall. That is how I amend my soil. And then when I plant, all the soil is the same. And I just replace the soil in the hole that I dug out, etc. So that's how I plant. And that's how I get beautiful growth from all of my plants. Now you may say, you see others doing the opposite and they seem to have beautiful growth, but you don't know how that plant has struggled. You haven't watched it from day one, and you haven't watched from a comparison. So try it yourself and tell me what you find if you do a comparison of 2 plants in one hole you've amended and one hole you haven't. I'd love to hear your results. So that's that. I am going to plant this rose. This is the fairy. I will put a picture up of it, and I think I'll go ahead and show you how I create a gopher cage for it. Now, some of my roses, let me see the bottom of this pot. Let me lift it up here. It's heavy because it was been out. Now, it has lots of holes around the edges, and I have just planted the entire pot in the ground of many of mine because I didn't have any more gopher cages and I didn't want to take the time to make them. So, yeah, I've just done that. And the plants around the rose pot, because I don't plant it all the way level with the soil, it's sticking up a little bit like this. In the wintertime and before plants fill in, it looks kind of scruffy. But even the gopher cages will stick up a little bit, because gophers, when there's heavy snow on my ground, they will come up through the snow and tunnel through the snow and then tunnel into plants too. So that's just something I have to deal with. But I will make a gopher cage and show you how that goes. And that this one I didn't want to put in the soil directly, and I meant to say, and I didn't get there because I got distracted, that the roots will go down through the holes that are in the bottom of the pots, and they'll continue down in the soil. And even if the gophers eat those off, the rose doesn't die. It could not bloom as well. It could not grow as well, because it's putting out roots like that because it wants to keep growing and find nutrients. And when they eat them off, that prevents that. But yeah, I will go ahead and make a gopher cage, and I will get it planted for you. I got to think about where I really want to put this. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with a friend, or on social media, whatever you like. I'm sure somebody wants to know how to make a DIY gopher cage, and or why I don't use soil amendments in a planting hole. All right, we're going to do the best we can here. All my work surfaces, well, they've been confiscated, so to speak, for the shop for the guys. So I have to make do. So we're going to do it on the sidewalk. It's going to be a little tough to do this, but this is my hardware cloth. Let me see it. This is, I think, 1/2 inch. It comes in rolls. I got this one, I think, at Tractor Supply, but they have them at Lowe's and Home Depot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure my pot. Now, I am going to fold up the bottom, so I want it, let me see, it would come up halfway, maybe a little bit more. So, and then I'm going to clip where it would be the top of the pot. And these are just some wire scissors. It's better than individual snips. Okay, that's the top of the pot is right about here. So I will just snip that so I know where I'm going to snip it. And that might be a little too much on the bottom, so I need to pull it down a little bit. You'll see what I'm going to do. Yeah, that's probably better. Even a little bit. Yeah, right there. So that's a good spot. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Okay, so then I'm going to roll it this way to see how big a round I'm going to make it, because I want the cage to be about the same size as the root ball. So I'm going to go right to here. Right to here, and I will cut that up. Hopefully you can see in the camera what I'm doing. I guess I should check. I'm not going to lose my place here. I'll cut it so I have the start, and then I'll look. I guess I should have looked first. But it's hard enough me getting down there. I think you can see it. So that's the technical way I measure for the gopher cage for this one. Now, if it would have been a smaller rose, I could have made a smaller one, a root ball. So it's not an exact science, but this is a good size for a gopher cage. So 1, 2, 3. Let me see. Where was that cut? I'll count it up, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. All right. And I just cut. I like these because you can cut more at once than in individual wire cutters. And because that gets so tedious and your hand gets tired. So these work fantastic. So now you're not getting right next to or close enough that you're not going to have a little spiky thing sticking up. So when you go to plant in it, it's going to be, something you got to watch out for. Now, some people make them tall enough that the top folds over a little bit, and that's a good idea too, but I don't always worry about that. Okay, let's get these in there. So what I'm going to do now is move this one so I don't jab myself with it. Hopefully against this surface you can see what in the world I'm doing. I'm going to roll it up, and I'm going to use the cut edges to fasten it to each other. So I just kind of wrap it around each other. Make sure you have gloves on because this can get quite prickly. I just try to do it as best as I can. No rocket science. Got one wrapped around the other. You could go both ways if you want. Oops, it's not holding because I'm bending it. All right, wrap that one around this one and then back. Like I said, this part can be tedious. I'm wrapping each little wire end around the opposing side's edge. And you try to keep it underneath there because it's just like a hook. And try to squeeze it down as much as you can. That's why you try to leave them as long as you can, and then you can wrap them around and hook them on there. Okay, so what we want to do for the bottom is you want to be able to fold it up to a point that, so I'll cut this side up. That it's going to create a bottom. And let's see, I didn't count how far up I went, but I'm just going to wing it here. Probably should have done this part while it was flat. So I'm going to test it and see how far it goes. Okay, that's perfect. So I'll do the same over here. Guess I could do 3 sides. Nah, I'm going to do 4. Just like I'm supposed to do. There. Now you have made a bottom. See that? And then just go ahead and hook these on top. My gloves kind of make it hard for me to do it, but it's so sharp you can't do it without gloves. Probably should have pliers out here to do this. There we go. So we've made it where we've hooked it and we've made a basket. And you can use other wire if you need to. I just need to get in here and really focus on hooking these like they should be hooked and not be so lazy. So there we go. Okay. So then I put that in the planting hole. So I'm going to take you to the planting hole. So we are in the Rose Cottage Garden, and this is one of the arbors. This is the first arbor coming up from the studio cottage. And this, I had put this, or had my husband put it here, because it was kind of a blank spot in the summer. So I want to move it now and plant a rose, this rose there, and then it won't be. That's super heavy. It's got daffodils coming up in it and tulips. But here's the spot. Now I'll go get my shovel, dig a hole deep enough to put the basket in it, and then the rose in the basket. Okay, let's get this thing planted. So now right here is my Pretty in Pink climber. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I forgot my bucket. I always like to put my soil in a bucket so I can put it right back in the hole more easily. So let me grab that bucket. Alrighty, got my bucket. So Right here is a foxglove, and here is another little rose. But there'll be plenty of room for this one. And not sure what this roots is going to, but I will avoid it. When I dig deep enough, I'm going to go back a little bit. Now the fairy gets 2 feet high and can get 4 feet wide, but you can also keep it narrower. Depends on how you want it to go. There's no harm in trimming it back to a size that you want. Now I want it nice and wide, just because I want to make sure I can get the basket down in there all the way. I don't take it all the way to the top. So you can see the basket around this one. Now I have some roses over here in the rose cottage garden that are not protected. And so far, they have done okay. That doesn't mean a thing, though. The gophers could suddenly decide they want to come after it. Now down here, the soil is more clayish, which is okay. That means it absorbs and holds water well, and it's not overly clayish. So, and even though it's very damp, it's very crumbly, so that tells me it drains well enough. Okay, let's see. Get the basket pushed down in there. I don't have it quite wide enough. I've got some edges that stick. Okay, let's try this again. All right, push it, oof, as I fall in there. Fall in the hole with it. Okay, this spot over here is a little tight. Okay, you can hear my neighbor's rooster. Whoops. Looks like there's some daffodils there I just chopped on. Okay, so first I'm going to make sure that the soil in there comes up to the bottom of the basket. And put it down in there. Rub it through, because I dug it deeper and it took me a little bit to get it wide enough, and I wasn't sure how I needed to do that. So that's looking good. So I try to strain it through, make sure it's kind of like a mesh sieve, and you want it to the level. You don't want it like an air gap underneath your rose. Okay, so here is my rose, and we will just loosen it in its pot. Now, this root ball may be wider than our basket. And you see these little things in here? That's slug eggs. So I'm just going to scratch this off to narrow this down. It won't hurt anything at all. Until I can fit it into the basket. And if I had to root prune, that works okay too. It won't hurt the rose. Roses are a whole lot tougher than most people give them credit for. All right, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So now I'm going to put the native soil back in there. And we will scroosh it all around. Make sure it goes down into the edges, fills in. We don't want any air gaps. So I'll push in with my fingers. It won't hurt. There's another foxglove over there. This is a golden feverfew here. And this other soil that came off, I just leave it on top of the soil over here. So, now this soil that kind of landed on the crown is not going to hurt anything. We're supposed to get a lot of rain, and that can just wash it right off there. Or if you weren't going to get a lot of rain, you could come in with the hose with the power nozzle and just spray it off. So, there you have your rose planting. without adding any amendments in the soil. Now the soil that the pot was in, in the pot, it's a little sandy and gritty and different. You notice getting rid of some of that will help it to settle into the soil here. And then that soil is not wasted, it's just put on top of these other plants, like you would a mulch or something. So there you have that. And it's protected from the gophers. I'm going to share this with you. This is my studio patio I've talked about in some videos. And I was saying that the violas had reseeded all in the cracks. And look, it's been so nice. This one's starting to bloom. But this is all violas that have reseeded. And they're different colors. This one has yellow. And this one back here, if you can see it, is blue. Blue on blue. Really, really pretty. I think it's going to be really spectacular when it really gets into bloom. And one thing about it, the viola's really kind of choked out a lot of the weeds. There's a few weeds in there I see that need to come out, but yeah, it's going to be gorgeous. These are the flagstones I was going to move into my pathway in the secret cottage garden and didn't because of those beautiful violas. Well, I hope I wasn't huffing and puffing too much for you. Getting down on my hands and knees, it can be pretty tough, but I got the rose planted in the gopher cage. I show you how I did it. I'm certainly hoping it turned out because I don't want to have to do that again. I will because I've got more roses coming in and I do want to protect them from the gophers, but let them get established in the native soil. I do plant them in pots, like I said before, but I don't think that's the best route. I just do it because I have to. And I think the gopher cages are a much better way to do it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Come on back because I am going to test out some bargain products that I found. I found some, was it Tractor Supply? I can't remember. I think it was Tractor Supply. But anyways, it was a self-watering tray that has little plugs in it and then you can seed stuff in it. And I'm going to give them a try just so you know whether or not it might work for you. Because not everybody has, like I do, the seed rack, all the fancy tools, etc. And sometimes you just don't want to go that route of all the messy work. And this is all self-contained. Yeah, and it might even work like if you had a sunny windowsill coming up. Like usually it has to be later in the year. Like this is end of January. For that to work as far as growing in a windowsill with a lot of seedlings because you're just not getting enough strong light for them to be strong, grow strong. They could be weak and spindly if they're not getting enough sunlight, bright light. So anyways, that's what I'm going to do in one of my upcoming videos and whatever else. And I hope you enjoyed me sharing the little bit of information about why I don't amend the soil in a planting hole and or use starter fertilizers. So I will see you in my next video. Bye.